I found it. I found the bangle.
Blue hand?
Ooh.
Blue hand?
Ooh.
Green?
Cree, maybe?
Should we be concerned it's on a
Or
They
dead
just
person.
make wishes on it in one
You
hand.
heard what the man from the temple said.
They try to throw it away and it keeps reappearing in their drawer.
They throw away
Oh,
the bangle,
Aisha's
pick it
not.
up.
Okay, different character.
Oh.
Different character.
Oh.
This is surprising to me. I love it.
Take the bangle.
I love
get
the
your
music on the
powers.
show so much. By the
So
way.
nice.
So where's the other one?
I told you. The British have probably looted this place twice over by now.
The British are coming.
Oi! Oi,
Then
you!
one will have to do.
Oi, light skaters! Whoa! 10 rings!
10 rings logo on the ground.
MT! You
What's
called
going
that, bro?
on here?
You did it!
Aisha, we don't know
What's going on
I
with
have
the 10 rings?
so many questions.
Bangles 10
What?
rings affiliated.
Given a chance, this bangle can take us back
What
home.
is going
We have to try.
on?
In our home dimension, the newer dimension, we're known as clandestines.
What?
As to what we are,
Deep cut.
we've been called Ajnabi,
Clandestines?
Majnun, unseen. The list goes on. But what we're most
Like old
commonly
school
known
clandestines?
as
Djinn. Wait, she's saying Djinn?
I'm sorry, did you just say Djinn?
Whoa, okay, whoa. This show is doing crazy stuff.
I did not foresee any of this.
Me neither. I don't know where this is going, but I love it. I love this.
This is really dope. Like, what does this Djinn thing mean for Kamala? I don't know.
Let's talk about it. Welcome back to New Rockstars Ms Marvel, episode 3. Veered into a direction I think few of us expected it to, with the mentions of Djinn's, Clandestines, the 10 Rings. what is going on? This is Inside Marvel. It's New Rockstars' official after show for Ms. Marvel on Disney+. I'm Erik Voss. My Easter egg breakdown for this episode is going to come out tomorrow after my breakdown for the Obi-Wan Kenobi finale. I hope you forgive me. I got to get to that one first. But with me right now, reacting to episode 3 of Ms. Marvel, is MT. MT, hats off to you, my friend, for calling this. I did not think that the 10 rings would connect to the bangle at all, but you and many others who theorized that were absolutely right. I have to give you all the
thank
credit
you.
for that. I think that is, I did not see this coming, but I'm actually genuinely happy to not know what is coming next. I think
Right?
they're kind of moving in two different directions, right? Bringing in some deep cut Marvel names and things from mythology that I honestly think is really cool.
So cool. So mega cool. I have no idea. Like, I really love that they're leading into this clandestines route because, like, no one really knows what the clandestines really are. It's a very obscure group in the Marvel comics. I cannot tell you one clandestines fan. No offense, Marvel, but like, I really love that they're doing this because not a lot of people know about the clandestines. So anything can happen. Like, we're gonna be surprised no matter what. So like, that's what's really dope about this. I love it.
Right. I think they intentionally chose the clandestines because fans don't have that strong of attachment to
Exactly.
them, so that they can have
Do
like a
whatever.
different name for them. But I also feel like Marvel can doesn't even have to pull a name from the comics at all.
Right.
They can just say like, we're just called Djinn and that's it. But it actually is it's not a completely random choice either, because the clandestines actually do have an important tie to the Djinn mythology. We'll talk about that a little bit.
Imagine they were like, we're
let's-
the Djinn humans. Not Inhumans, the Djinn humans.
oh no. The show would definitely lose me if they do that. Oh my god.
That'd be weird.
Okay, so in this episode of Ms. Marvel, we flash back to the pre-partition India 1942, showing Najma and her other companions digging through some rubble to find the severed blue hand wearing the bangle. And joining them is Aisha, Kamala's great-grandmother. Thankfully, Najma is not her great-grandmother. That would have scared the hell out of us. Here's the camera on. Makes a lot more sense now seeing it this way. But they discuss how this man in a temple told them that there would be 2 of these bangles, and these bangles would help them get home. Aisha puts on the bangle. Her eyes glow purple. And then we see on the floor of this site is the logo of the 10 rings.
Yes.
And we all lose it.
I lost
It's
it.
so exciting, so mysterious, but actually starts to answer quite a few questions about what's happening in Phase 4. But I'll get to that again in a moment. In the present, though, Najma and Cameron tell this story to Kamala, right? And they claim that, or at least Najma claims that they got separated from Aisha.
Right.
But we didn't see that in the flashback. We just have to take her word for it.
So sketchy.
We
that
meet the
woman.
others. A little sketchy. We meet the others in her group, including Faria, Adam, and Celine. And then Najma explains that they come from another dimension called the Noor dimension. Noor, Noor being the word for light. And by the way, that's not really a thing in Marvel Comics. I don't think. It's just a new thing that the show is introducing.
Right.
And that they have gone by many names over the years. I love it whenever Marvel does this. Kang the Conqueror did this. I have had many names over the years. She mentions Ajnabi, Majnun, and the Unseen, various other names. The list goes on, but best known as Djinn. D-J-I-N-N. We heard that in episode 1. We started to talk about it, and man, who would have thought the one time I don't really double down on demons being the answer is the time it actually is.
Man,
right?
I freaking love this so much, man. Like, I really hope that this isn't like a red herring. It's like, all right, no, you're actually a Djinn. You're part demon, and I just think it's a really interesting take on this origin story. Like, I would have never ever guessed that they would go this route.
Kamala debriefs Bruno, who says that he read a paper from a familiar name, Dr. Eric Selvig.
Hey,
It's Stellan Skarsgård's
the man in
character
his
from the Thor
underwear.
movies. That's right. Or we hope he's got underwear on, because sometimes Stonehenge has to see a bit too much. Yeah, you never know with that guy. So Bruno's going to do some research about interdimensional travel. The DODC agent Deaver tries to search a mosque, but newly elected board member Nakia tells her to F right off until she has
Nakia,
a warrant.
let's go.
Love this.
That's my president.
Yeah.
That's my president. Nakia 2024.
We just spend much of this episode at the wedding festivities of Kamala's brother Amir and his fiance, now wife Taisha, and it's just so great. I loved
nice.
all this.
I
How
love
wholesome
this.
it was.
I usually don't like dancing sequences, but I was like, this is really nice. This is wholesome. Like, I like this. This works. And like a Pakistani wedding is so
wonderful.
beautiful.
Yeah. I was invited to one of them. Some of our close friends. They got married a few years ago. I couldn't make the trip, and now I wish that I had, because it just looks like a blast. Although, when Bruno jumps in there.
I can tell everybody in the audience was like, the caucasity of this bitch. I can't even believe it.
I mean, look, the whole family loves Bruno. He seemed very welcomed by them. It was fine. I'm just saying, like, for all of us watching, I just know that if I were the Bruno in that scenario, I think they would have stopped the music and said, hey, we love you. Just have a seat.
This is our thing. Just let us have a thing.
This isn't about you. Whatever. We're having a blast. It's fine. One of my favorite moments this episode, MT, was Yusuf talking to Bruno at the Circle Q, explaining Djinn folklore.
Yes.
I think these two are my favorite relationship in the series.
Yeah,
I just love it so much.
Her dad's the best, the absolute best. He's just chilling. He was like, yo, don't tell my wife I'm getting this because it's not good for me. But also, here's I'm going to translate these freaking things that you're doing and just casually and just be like, all right, bye.
And I have to shout out Bisha K. Ali for her writing on this series, because this is not an easy thing to do, introduce exposition in all these different ways. Each episode reveals to us more and more exactly what we need to know for each episode.
Right.
I feel like we are learning so much about the world each episode, but never feels like it's too much. Never just feels like it's just run-on sentences of people talking. It's always like this new interesting character combination. And, as we saw in shows like Hawkeye, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, nothing against those shows, but it is really hard to structure exposition in a way that both keeps the mystery alive, but doesn't feel like they're annoyingly withholding anything from you. Like, every time I have a question on this show, the next scene answers it in a fun way. And that's really, really impressive. Like, I think Ms. Marvel is on par with Loki when it comes to world building and expectation management. Maybe it's too soon for me to pay that praise, but I think this show is doing a great job. Like, this could have been a complete whiplash and we'd all be confused, but no, they they explain everything you need to know.
Yeah,
and I give them a lot of credit for that.
Oh no, like I definitely agree. Like especially with the whole questions being answered thing. Like they answer questions, but also while also still keeping this general mystery that keeps you interested in learning more about like this universe and like this part of the Marvel universe and Kamala's family and Kamala's life and like Kamala's whole mysterious lineage. So like yeah, they have a perfect balance of like, all right, we're gonna give you some mystery, but we're gonna give you some answers, but not too many answers because this is a journey here. So yeah, I love this. This is a really great job by the writers.
And also we got to talk about how fast this episode moves. Like it introduces information, then we have some comic relief. Like the pacing of this show is all really great. It's just like a fun. I thought it was just gonna be a fun vibe, but like I'm so curious to learn more and to learn more and to learn more about these people. And every character on the show is a fully fleshed out human being. Even Amir. Amir is worried about his economic anxieties in his new marriage. We even get this nice little moment where Amir's like, I can't flee this place. I need to get the money. And it's like falling out of his arms. Oh my God. Like every character, no one just feels like they're just playing a plot role. In fact, I would say only so far maybe some of the members of the Djinn, the Clandestines. I don't know, but they're new. We don't know everything about them yet, but we know enough about them, right? So Bruno says they can't help the Clandestines get back home without risking destructive energy surges to this dimension. So Kamala is having some second thoughts about helping them, but Cameron texts her back, you just worry about your family's wedding today. We'll talk about it. We'll figure it out. We get, as you mentioned, some amazing dance sequences at the wedding. It is delightful. I mean, as a musical theater nerd growing up, I want everyone to burst into song and dance in every single one of these shows. I don't care what genre it is. The Boys last week was incredible to me. I love it. I understand it's not for everyone when people burst into song and dance, and at least it is obviously grounded. They're at a wedding. It makes sense for them to be doing these choreographed dances. I just think it's so great. I love that the parents are getting in there. I love that little kid, that nephew wearing the Hulk outfit.
Just inexplicably, he's like, yeah. I'm a living Easter egg.
So Cameron arrives, Bruno's pissed. He's like, I can't even have this dance with him. Bruno, the look on his face when Kamala says, can I dance? Bruno, man, it was like Milhouse, lower those eyebrows. Like he was ready.
But he's totally Milhouse. Milhouse and Lisa of the series.
And the other one. But Najma is on her way. Kamala clears the floor with a fire alarm. The Clandestines show up and they fight her and Bruno and they fight Kamran. They fight everybody. The fight is fine. It's fine. Like, I think ultimately right now we just don't know what exactly the Djinn's power sets are. They're supposed to be like other dimensional beings with some kind of powers. She said that the Nor exists in them in a smaller amount, but we didn't really see that. They were just kind of pulling weapons off their belt and, pulling weapons off of their, whatever that was, their necklace, and they'd kind of produce these melee weapons. But if these are like demons, they are not very scary. It kind of felt like, well, we can't have them beat the crap out of kids, right? And Kamala, to her credit, holds her own. It's just this whole fight was a bit like, okay, I understand. It's okay. It's fine.
They definitely felt like more super soldiers than anything. It just felt like this magical form of super soldierness, and like they were punching cracks in the floor, and like, it's just like, I don't really see the demon nature. So like, I'm sort of just maybe thinking that like maybe over the years they were just called demons by humans because they just didn't understand what these super soldiers were. But like, I'm wondering to see how that whole demon aspect and how the whole Djinn aspect is going to pay off in the end here.
During the fight, Najma grabs a bangle and then a portal opens showing that train that we had heard last episode. Now we just fully see it. Hogwarts Express coming in here, but it says Karachi on it. Look out. And then the DODC arrives, knocks them out with some sonic Hulk guns, arresting them. Kamala escapes. Nakia realizes Kamala has powers. Kamala refuses to tell her family the truth, but her grandmother, Sana, calls. She missed the wedding, and she tells Kamala that she also saw the vision of the train, and she needs to get her ass to Pakistan ASAP. So we learned a lot of new words this episode. Djinns, Clandestines. We saw the 10 rings. We saw blue severed arm. Let's make sense of this.
Yes. That's what Inside Marvel is for.
Some quick announcements. New Rockstars is going to be live in Austin, Texas on July 1st through the 3rd for RTX. That's Rooster Teeth's podcast festival. Our live show is going to be Saturday, July 2nd. It's just going to be a blast. Click the link in the description. Use the promo code New Rockstars, all one word, for a discounted ticket price. We really hope to see you there. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we love Rooster Teeth.
Yes, our friends at Rooster Teeth are amazing. We also want to shout out our merch partners who still have a limited number of Ms. Marvel inspired latest obsession shirts. Cosmic Daydream, available at newrockstarsmerch.com. It's the best way to support us here at New Rockstars. And when you get one of these, you'll unlock the added option to write them a custom shout out that will appear at the bottom of these after shows. For example, Jose says, would Kamala's powers be amplified if she fights next to Captain Marvel? I don't know if they'd be amplified, but I think they're going to be like better defined, right? Especially if the bangle is, itself a form of Kree technology. If, Carol Danvers' powers were derived from Kree tech, maybe. I don't know if they'd be amplified, though.
I don't know if they'd be amplified just because of proximity, but at the most, she just get the help of Captain Marvel. And so, the Marvel power to be amplified in general.
Right.
But I don't think that she would be stronger.
Kashan says Riri Williams is Iron Lad. She will be Kang's daughter or his variant. That's a very interesting theory.
Yeah.
Riri Williams.
I think that she's Ironheart, though.
I think she's Ironheart. I think he's saying Ironheart could just be the MCU's version of Iron Lad.
Oh, right.
Plausible. I just think Ironheart has her own backstory and her own character. Yeah. I don't think she needs to be related to Kang in that way. But I like where your head is at, Kashan.
Yeah,
I think it's very
fun
interesting.
idea for sure.
And then Thomas says, I would sell bootleg Erik Voss merch at AvengerCon. Well, don't tell me that, Thomas. I'm going to send my lawyers after you. I'm just kidding. I don't have lawyers. I should get lawyers, right? I should get lawyers.
We should all get lawyers.
All right. MT, what are we talking about for this episode?
All right, bro. I got to ask you here. Who are the Djinn, aka the Clandestines, and how do the Bangles connect to the 10 rings?
So last week we predicted that if Najma, Cameron, and Kamala weren't Inhumans, then they would be some other proper noun specific to this series, just some other group, and that's exactly what they did. And in fact, I should have stuck to my guns leading into the series that the answer would be grounded in Kamala's spiritual beliefs, because it's exactly what is happening now.
Hey, still points. I'll still give you points for that.
I'm giving you more points. I really did not think that the 10 rings would come into this, but I'm so happy to be wrong here, because this is very exciting to see all this connect. And I think it actually makes a lot of sense. Really, we should point out this series is, at least at this point, it seems like dramatically changing Kamala's origin from the comics. And as I predicted in our preseason episode, they're grounding it more in the era that the MCU seems to be in at the moment. And based on Moon Knight and Thor Love and Thunder, Wakanda Forever, Eternals, that theme is faith. How the spiritual beliefs of characters in the MCU inform their power sets. Now, sure, in one corner of the MCU, we're definitely exploring the multiverse with Kang and incursions and all that great stuff. But on this whole other level of the MCU, we're exploring religion. And I, for one, am fascinated. I'm here for it.
Yes.
This is an incredibly bold vector for Marvel Studios to explore. And thematically, it's far more uncharted. Because, we've seen the multiverse trope done pretty well in lots of other IPs, from everything Dan Harmon has touched to Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Hey.
And we haven't, though, spent enough time, I think, in what I call the Neil Gaiman territory, right? How superheroes intersect with religion and spiritual beliefs of characters, how they're basically gods. So now I can't wait for the MCU to explore this. I think it's not at all what I expected Phase 4 would explore. I thought they would touch on it, but now they're making it their core theme of this era. And
for sure.
It's super exciting.
We see it with Ms. Marvel, we see it with Thor Love and Thunder, obviously, Moon Knight, this, we're definitely going to the more spiritual side of things, and I need to see more. I love how the MCU is interpreting things in our reality in their own way and explaining it with a Marvel flair. And man, what they're doing with the gods is so freaking cool, and I can't wait to learn more about the science of the gods. It's really dope.
Yeah. Now, let's define some terms here. Djinn, right? This was mentioned back in episode 1. It refers to the spiritual beings from Islamic folklore, seen as demons or boogeymen, but they've been anglicized as genies, right? So I think at some point in my upbringing, they're like, oh, so Djinn, or what we call genies. And it's no, it's not what we call genies. It's we distorted and bastardized the concept of what Djinn are supposed to be into a blue Robin Williams dancing around, tap dancing. That's not what Djinn are. In fact, as Kamala explains this episode, and as her father explains to Bruno, there's a deeper, darker lore to them.
Right.
They are more frightening beings, you know? Fun fact that we should mention, Qui-Gon Jinn's name actually came from the term Djinn, right? So that's how ironic is it that Disney Plus gives us a double dip of Djinn today? Yes? Ironic. But we have to define clandestine. Okay, so this is an actual group in Marvel Comics from the 90s, created by Alan Davis, founded by this guy named Adam of Ravencroft from 1168 in England.
Good year.
This kid was impaled on a scythe and renamed Adam of Destin because they're like, wow, this guy can survive anything. He's destined for great things. So this young hero joins the Crusades. You know, at this time, that's when a lot of these European powers were headed to the Middle East to reclaim the Holy Land. That's where he went. And during all these adventures, he was dreaming of this mystery woman in his visions and in his dreams.
Don't we all?
Oh, yeah. He gets kidnapped by a warlord and goes through all this stuff with him, but is later saved by a female spirit that is contained in a gem. And that spirit is later revealed to be named Elilith. I think.
I was struggling with this name last night too. I was like, Elilith?
Yeah.
I don't know.
She's a Djinn. She is definitively a Djinn. And she becomes his lover. They have all these immortal descendants and they become known as Clandestine. The clan of Destine, right? In the comics, there's like a whole bunch of them. They have different powers. They're similar to the mutants. They cross paths with the X-Men. They were brought back in 2008. Nothing against Clandestine, but they weren't really hits.
Yeah.
You know, everyone right now who talks about Marvel stuff was doing some research on Clandestine last night because I don't know anyone who had read Clandestine comics.
I know a lot of Marvel. I've only heard that name once in passing. I do not know what the Clandestines were last night, but I know them now.
They are a deep cut. And I think that's by design. I don't think they were chosen because, you know, people are going to be like, oh, yes, finally, Clandestine. No. I think Kevin Feige is like, give me the name of the most obscure group that we can change. But also, I think this history with these people who do not age, people connected to the Djinn mythology, they're obviously changing it. But I think it's specific for, I think they wanted to throw that in as a nod to the fact that Adam had that kind of history with the Djinn. Also, one of the people in this group is named Adam. He's spelled differently, but is he Adam of Destiny?
Very interesting.
We don't know. It seems like Najma and Aisha were leading this group. We also don't know how long they've been around. We don't really know how they got in this dimension. You know, how long they've been banished here.
And you know what's also super interesting is like we have the names Aisha and Adam in this, you know, team that is all about energy, which is what, you know, the Sovereign are all about on their planet. So I'm just like, is this intentional? Like, is there like a hidden meaning behind these names? And like, I know that the name Aisha, if I'm not mistaken, means like she who is long lived or something like that. I Googled this once last night. I totally forgot. I think it means like more like a long lived person. So like, I'm wondering if like there's like a specific reason why like they're linking these like this name Aisha to long-lived people. Like I think the Sovereign are the peak of their evolution. So like I'm assuming they live long. So like I'm wondering what the connection here with these names are and why they chose, you know, Adam and Aisha and that combination. But that's just me rambling.
You bring up an interesting parallel there for sure, MT. Absolutely. At the moment, it seems like Marvel Studios is taking this lesser known family of superpowered beings from the comics, redefining them as Djinn from Islamic folklore, and then coming from a dimension called the Noor dimension. Noor means light. This is the purple colored dimension that Kamala briefly transported to in episode 1. Pretty sure now that the other beings she saw there were likely other Djinn or people from that home dimension. At least like they're known as Djinn in this dimension, but they may just have a completely different name, as Najma hints at in this episode. However, while we're grounding everything in Islamic folklore, space is still a big part of this because these bangles are not something from the Djinn's dimension. They found it in this dimension as a way to possibly get home, and they came to the MCU by way of the 10 Rings.
Hey.
Yes, our friends, the 10 Rings from Shang-Chi and the Legend of the 10 Rings, an ancient society of warriors led by Wenwu after he found these 10 rings that he wears as bracelets. In the movie, Shang-Chi, they do not say or show where he found them. At some point, Jai Ling says that he found them in a crater, but we never actually saw that or what that crater looked like. We may be seeing that crater here now. Shang-Chi ended with Wang discovering a pulsing beacon hidden in those 10 rings, summoning something. In the comics, the 10 rings are alien tech. It's called McLuhan tech. Each ring in the comics is said to contain the spiritual essence of an ancient McLuhan warrior, and each ring has a different power set. We didn't see that in the movie. It kind of seemed like they all just kind of had this concussive power to them that just make you punch stronger and you can kind of float with them. In the comics, it was the Mandarin who found them. Wenwu's loosely based on the Mandarin, and he found them in like the crashed wreckage of the McLuhan extraterrestrial, whom we called the dragon, or at least we didn't. I didn't, I wasn't reading the comics in the 70s. I wasn't alive yet, but it was called the dragon named Fin Fang Foom, which also was left out of the Shang-Chi movie, just because obviously that name has some
not great connotations.
So good cut. But what is interesting now is that the Djinn are discovering only one of the two bangles that some man in a temple told them to find. MT, I think that man in the temple was Wenwu. We know Wenwu was alive at this point. Wenwu's always been alive. He's been alive for like 1,000 years. Yeah. I think this rubble in India was the crater, was the site that the same place where he found the 10 rings. I think we are looking at a Kree crash site. And we know that the 10 rings were everywhere across the Asian continent. In China, modern day China, they were as definitely as far west. Yeah, as far west as like Afghanistan. Like it was meant to be like an empire spanning the globe the way Genghis Khan's empire did. I think this bangle right now is the same kind of alien tech that the 10 rings are. But I think one of those bangles was stolen, was taken from the site. Najma said that the British had already gone through this site, meaning the other bangle, where is the other bangle? I think it's somewhere in the UK. Maybe in Dane Whitman's uncle's mansion. That's right. Get Killmonger on this. We need to be robbing more museums. It could be among the possessions of Dane Whitman's uncle, because he's got the ebony blade there. Are there other things that he has there? Could it be with Blade and the MI-13? That's the supernatural division where he teams up with Black Knight. Maybe Moon Knight could be involved with this. We are exploring more of the supernatural side of the MCU. Now, again, we have to talk about this severed arm was blue in the MCU. Blue-skinned aliens are usually Kree. They aren't the only blue-skinned aliens out there in the MCU, but I think that could mean that Kree tech is definitely involved in the bangle. Maybe the term inhuman could come up on the series. I would say don't hold your breath, because they're using a whole other glossary of terms, it looks like. But yes, I think this bangle and the 10 rings are both Kree tech. Kree technology invented by imperialist Kree. I think this was the ship. There was a ship in ancient times that crashed on Earth containing Kree tech. These are ancient Kree over 1,000 years ago who came to Earth, maybe in that time created Inhumans. We don't know yet. But I think on this ship were things like the 10 rings and things like the bangles. One of the bangles ended up in the hands of some British colonizers. The other one stayed here in the rubble found by the Djinn. So this isn't all coming from one place, right? We have Kree tech from space, and then we have the Djinn coming from another dimension. I think that 10 rings beacon is summoning the Kree to reclaim this important tech of theirs. And I think that is setting up the Marvels. And that's why Carol Danvers was in that scene, and she's like, it's beyond any tech I've seen. Now, she's obviously pretty familiar with Kree tech. She spent quite a bit of time on Hala, but I think this predates her. I think this is from ancient Kree times. And she's just not studied up on her Hala history. I think this proves to us that in the Marvels, Carol Danvers, Monica Rambeau, and Kamala Khan are going to have to defend Earth from a Kree invasion. I think Secret Invasion is going to show us a shadow war, and I think that's going to spill out into an open, hostile, hot war between the Kree and the Skrulls on Earth. And I think those three women are going to have to team up to defend us from their Kree invaders, from these imperialists. So meanwhile, I think the Djinn have been trapped in the Earth dimension, and they hope that the Kree bangles is just a technology they don't fully understand and will be powerful enough to open a portal back to their home dimension regardless of the consequences. But what was that Nora dimension? How did they get here? Well, remember, in Shang-Chi, Nan referred to alternate realms and civilizations beyond our own. The Djinn could have been outcasts from one of those. They aren't all Djinn who live in that dimension. They're other dimensional beings, but here, they're kind of banished here in the MCU on this Earth dimension to kind of walk the Earth as these kind of ghostly figures. Now, I think we're going to learn that this Nor dimension could be one of the afterlives of the MCU, part of the same network that we know the ancestral plane is connected with the Duat. Tower had explained that there are various afterlives in the MCU, and they go by different names. I think the Nor dimension is a different one, but is also considered an afterlife. And these Djinn, like ghosts in various other mythologies, are banished to walk this mortal plane unwelcomed by that afterlife.
Damn.
So I think the Nor dimension is just like another version of the ancestral plane, another version of the Duat. I think people who go there when they die, but these Djinn were outcasts from that for whatever reason, right? Ooh. They had some drama, or maybe their souls were kind of cursed in some way. Obviously, that's a lot, MT, but since you're the one who figured out that the 10 Rings was connected to this, I defer to your expertise. What are your thoughts?
Man, I mean, I really love this idea of like the Kree getting this beacon, like, and it's like, oh my God, like, the humans are ready for whatever we need them for. Or like, or 10 rings, or all of our objects are over here. Let's go get them. I really like that idea. But like, I honestly think that, 10 rings and these bangles could be a lot older than even the Kree civilization. I think that these could like have come like millions of years ago in that comet of vibranium that crashed on Earth, like a long time ago. And like, cause like you were mentioning Killmonger earlier, and I was thinking of that museum scene. Of like, remember when he puts on that that mask and it's like a demon, and like it's like, all right, this is part of like culture, and like the demons existed in this culture a long time ago, and I'm just like, I think that that's important. I think that these like demon creatures probably came with this asteroid, maybe, and like, and all of like the 10 rings and the bangles and like the vibranium in general, all of these items, and like, because we know from the end of Shang-Chi that they were analyzing the 10 rings, and they were like, all right, this isn't really a material that we've seen before. So like they said that it wasn't vibranium. So I'm just like, all right, vibranium is like a very rare metal that came from outer space. So like, what if other rare metals, like, the metals found in the 10 rings and like this new bangle, what if they're all part of this package of foreign metals from a different planet? And like, all right, here you go. So yeah, I think that, these 10 rings have like a much more older history, and possibly, I think that maybe even the Djinn and these bangles could have come from the realm of Ta Lo, because we know from Shang-Chi that Ta Lo is a separate universe, like a neighboring universe from the 616. So like, I'm thinking that these Djinn people possibly could have just been exiled from the realm of Ta Lo because they were just being jerks and they want to get back. And because we know that Shang-Chi's mom, she's from another universe. So she is not native here. And like his dad is from this universe. So a very similar situation with Shang-Chi. And I think that they might be setting up a team for like maybe Kamala and Shang-Chi and like maybe other people to make a little clandestine team for the MCU. That'd be really fun. But yeah, I think that these rings, the 10 rings and all this stuff, it's a much older than probably even the planet. But that's just me.
that's pretty old. Pretty old. I mean, I think it's ultimately, you're right. I think it is and the Kree as a species predates humanity by countless years, right? Like a long time. We saw kind of the origin of the humans of Earth in Eternals. We saw the Sumerian civilization that was 5000 BC roughly. And that's the earliest signs of civilization we really know of. There's obviously other civilizations around the planet, but it's not like we really had any intelligent civilization formed before 10,000. In the MCU, 10,000 BC was really when the 5 tribes of Wakanda came together. And I've always loved the understanding of the MCU that vibranium meteorite striking Wakanda is the what if scenario that made the MCU different from our reality. That is the one thing that changed. That's the one thing that's different. And then everything else kind of stemmed from that. That was the Nexus event. And that maybe, see, I don't know if, I think that's an interesting theory that these bangles or these other things could have been on that meteorite as well. But I don't know if they were on the meteorite, but I do think that they were connected, right? I think the Kree saw that meteorite strike Terra and was like, oh, so they got some early tech. There's a group there who's now starting to build that and weaponize that. They're ready for a higher form of war, and sent this Kree warship there. So the Kree started to experiment maybe create Inhumans, things like that. Things went wrong, obviously. When Wu ended up with the 10 rings, someone else ended up with these bangles, etc. And I think ultimately you're right. I think they do come from another dimension. I think it's one of the ones that was hinted at beyond Talo, personally. But I'm wondering, like, was there someone they pissed off? Like, in the way that, Love and Thunder is going to introduce us to the pantheon of deities. Maybe one of these characters, they'll say, like, maybe we'll meet some other grouch who's sitting in one of those thrones and who has a reputation for casting people out of his or her afterlife. And that you and I will be able to connect that back to these Djinn here in Ms. Marvel. We'll find out for sure. But I mean, this is leading me to some pretty crazy directions. I don't want to get there yet, but we'll get there later this episode.
This episode was so exciting. I love it.
First, we want to thank some friends who helped us make this episode. Starting with our friends at Blue Chew. Summer is here and the temperature isn't the only thing that is rising. Yes, this episode was brought to you by Blue Chew. Fellas, confidence can take you far in life. It can also help in the bedroom. That's where Blue Chew comes in. Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, but in chewable tablets and at a fraction of the cost. You can take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead or be ready for whenever an opportunity arises. The process is simple. Sign up at bluechew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. It's all done online, so no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, no waiting in line at the pharmacy. Blue Chew's tablets are made in the USA and prepared and shipped direct to your door in a discreet package. So if you could benefit from some extra confidence when it's time to perform, Blue Chew can help. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code MARVEL at checkout. Just pay $5 in shipping. That's bluechew.com, promo code MARVEL to receive your first month free. Visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. We thank Blue Chew for sponsoring this show. We also want to thank Stance for sponsoring this episode. We love us some Stance socks around the new Rockstars office. They fit great and have cool designs made with brands like Marvel, Pixar, MLB, NBA, The Simpsons. They even have a new line inspired by Fortnite. Let everyone know that you're glad no build mode is here. Stance is branching out beyond socks to bring color, comfort, and creativity from toe to head with the launch of a new active apparel line. Check out Stance's super soft line of sweatpants, shirts, hoodies, hats, and more, now available in a full range of fits, prints, and fabrics and fun. Embrace a life of superior comfort and creative expression with everyday active apparel that truly is stitched different. Stance's philosophy is that you should never have to sacrifice your own individual style for the sake of comfort. And now you do not have to. Whether you're relaxing around the house, working out at the gym, or running all over town, Stance now delivers its signature softness and creativity in a full line of active apparel styles from toe to head. Stance has got you covered. Head on over to stance.com and get 15% off your first purchase. Use promo code MARVEL at checkout to apply. Enjoy the color and comfort of a life less ordinary with Stance, stitched different. All right, back to the episode. MT, so we know that Ms. Marvel was setting up the Marvels, right? And we seem to have this like Kree conflict coming, especially if the 10 rings are revealed to be Kree and these bangles are revealed to be Kree. But in the meantime, we're also exploring more of the supernatural side. So I want to ask you, is Ms. Marvel setting up Blade?
I think that, Ms. Marvel could be a continuation of like what Blade is doing, because we saw at the end of Eternals that he's collecting all of these artifacts that, I'm assuming that he's collecting all of these artifacts that seem to be a little bit too much for humanity to handle. And so like, I think that the 10 rings and possibly these bangles could fall under this category. And so Blade could show up like at the end when the DODC fails to capture Kamala. It's like, hey, I keep keeping an eye on you, and I'm supposed to collect that, but I'm just gonna let you have it because you seem to be pretty good with it. This is like, if you want to join the Midnight Suns, here's my card, sort of a scenario. Even though that would be hilarious, I don't think Ms. Marvel's gonna be on the Midnight Suns. That would be so funny. Yeah, I think that, it's tangentially related to Blade, but like, I don't know if they're setting up Blade through the Marvels, but like, I think that Blade might be like sort of involved just because of the cosmic nature of this artifact. But what do you think?
I mean, I didn't expect this at all going into this series, but like right now, like the DODC, we don't really know exactly what their main focus is. They seem to just be worried about quote unquote enhanced individuals. But as we, pivot from the show to She-Hulk, I think we're going to be seeing more examples of supernatural beings, werewolves, zombies, vampires, etc. And the more we get shout outs to those things, the more likely Blade could show up. I don't know if it'll be the Midnight Suns first. I think we're going to see some investigatory unit, maybe under the DODC or in conjunction with the DODC. That's why I brought up MI13. MI13 is like the British intelligence service, where Black Knight teams up with Blade and other people to investigate and deal with these paranormal threats. I'm just like, it wouldn't surprise me at this point. I'm like equally on the fence of Cleary is a Skrull and Cleary is a vampire hunter, right? It seems like either direction could be valid, doesn't it?
I would love to see Cleary hunting vampires. That'd be so funny.
But yeah, I think you're right. Every Marvel show, it's going to start to give us more and more of these things from folklore, things from supernatural, paranormal phenomena, and I think Djinn are part of that ecosystem. And to that point, I have to ask, MT, is Mephisto back on the table?
Ooh.
Hear me out. Hear me out.
Yeah, I'm hearing. Let's go.
Could Mephisto have been the demon overlord of the dimension from which the Djinn were cast out? Could Mephisto have banished them to this dimension? I sound crazy. That question sounds stupid as I say it.
I don't think, no,
but
bro.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think this sounds stupid because we're dealing with demons. And like, Mephisto is the ultimate demon.
He's a demon lord. All hail Mephisto. Look, we know that the Ms. Marvel cast is like into new rock stars. They're big fans of ours. Iman Vellani watches our videos. Other people in the cast and crew watch our videos.
Hey, Iman, we love you.
And specifically, our preseason episode where we speculated that her powers are going to be rooted in her spiritual beliefs, that we know for sure. Iman Vellani said during the press conference, she shared it with the executive producer on the show. They talked about that. And I think that should have been a clue to us that we were on the right path on that episode. So maybe the reason is like Iman secretly knows that we're right about Mephisto, and that Mephisto's coming, and they just want us to have this win.
Oh my God. I would love it.
Maybe? No. I mean, I just don't think so. I don't think so. I feel like he's at least back on the table.
It would be such a fun reveal, like, for sure. It's like, oh yeah, in your family line, Mephisto, he made the bracelets, and like now you're part of the devil's.
No, he didn't make the bracelets. The bracelets came from Kree Tech, but I think look, Mephisto and Djinn come from completely different spiritual belief systems. Mephisto obviously from Judeo-Christian, not even Judeo, just straight up Christian and Catholic folklore from the early times, whereas Djinn is something from a completely different faith network. I understand that. Don't lecture me on that. I know, guys. I know I'm reaching right now. I'm just saying. I did not think that people's faith and their spiritual beliefs would play such an important role in this series. And I think the more the MCU does that, the more likely people like Mephisto can show up. And I think really Mephisto is going to be the villain of some kind of upcoming Midnight Suns. I don't need Mephisto to show up before that, honestly. But if he does,
I feel like if Mephisto is for sure coming to the MCU. I feel like there's no doubt about that. He's too big of a name to not come to the MCU. But yeah, I think that Midnight Suns, like you said, might be a better place to introduce or make him the big like Thanos type of person for that team. So yeah, for sure.
So other questions from this episode. Anything else we want to talk about? Is Bruto going to go to Caltech? Dr. Eric Selvig exploring interdimensional travel and just put it up online for every teenager in Jersey City to read?
I know what the teens like, interdimensional travel papers. But no, another thing I just wanted to bring up real quick is like, we saw that the 10 Rings logo was on the floor there. I honestly think that Agent Cleary is working in tandem with the 10 Rings organization, and that this is all possibly going to tie into Armor Wars, maybe. Because the 10 Rings, all about technology. Like, they were obsessed with technology and being on the cutting edge. And like, I think that, this could be an Armor Wars prequel of sorts, where it's like, all right, here's this cosmic armor. We want it because like, this is what the 10 Rings does. And we're going to get it in one way or the other. So like, it'd be really fun if that's how the 10 Rings connect to Ms. Marvel. It's like Agent Cleary is working with Jai Ling and possibly even the Power Broker from Madripoor. I think that'd be really fun. What do you think about that?
Maybe. Oh, maybe. Yeah, I think ultimately every piece of like weaponized tech that's out there is going to be playing some kind of role in Armor Wars, right?
Right.
I just think Armor Wars is going to be something on the other side of the Marvels. We don't have a release date yet for Armor Wars. I assume sometime in 2023.
I need a release date and for Justin Hammer to be confirmed.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, he's already confirmed. He's at least in
got it.
Seagate
Come
prison.
on.
All right, well, we will leave it there for this episode of Inside Marvel. I am loving this show.
So good.
Loving this show. It's so good. And I like that I have no idea where it's going. Like, our friends over at the Ringerverse podcast are calling it the summer of no expectations, and I'm on board with them. Like, no expectations for these shows. Wherever it takes us, I'm just along for the ride, and I'm enjoying this ride so much.
Man.
Don't forget to check out our great merch options at newrockstarsmerch.com. Follow me at EA Voss. Follow MT at MasterTainment. Subscribe to Inside Marvel wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.
We love you. Bye.
We love you. Bye.